So it's time to put in the forms for the concrete footers.
Here we go.
Yeah, wow.
Hey everybody, this is Bill with Live Simple, Live Free. I got the footers dug, so now the next step is to put in the forms for the concrete. I have to do that and then get it inspected before I can actually pour the concrete. So I got this foundation hole pretty close to level and straight with the backhoe, using the transit to make sure that it's level. Now I just have to clean it up with a shovel. There's always shovel work. Always shovel work. Okay, so I'm starting to put in the footers, and this is the measuring stick that I use for my transit that I stand up when I use the transit, and this comes in handy for other things as well, since it's stiff. If I'm here by myself to try to use a tape measure to measure this, and the tape measure would be flimsy, would be very difficult. But with this, I can just lay it here. I have to make sure that this is 10 feet 4 inches from the wall, so this just does an excellent job at that. So footers are required to be 8 inches deep and 16 inches wide. That way when you put the 8-inch cinder block in the center, you got 4 inches to spare on either side. So I cut these to 19 inches, which is the 16 plus 1.5 inches on each side. So when I do that, it gives me exactly 16 in the middle. Now I got them screwed together, but I still need to dig underneath and level it all up and everything like that. Now I'm going to have to make sure that this footer is square. Don't want to pour a footer that's out of square and then the building will be out of square. So eventually I'll just triangulate it. When I'm done, I'll triangulate it across both ways and make sure it's square. But for right now, I don't have the rest of the box done. I just want to get a rough estimate. So here's what I do. Take that 2x4 and I pressed it up right up against the foundation of the wall so it's sticking straight out. And now when I look at this, I can see that the footer that I'm putting in is not straight. This side is over here. I need to take the end closest to me and move it over to the right to get it to be straight with that board. And that's not going to give me exact, but it'll give me pretty close. so that when I'm done building it, I can rack it with a tape measure both directions and make sure it's completely square. But that's just an easy way to get a rough and tumble estimate of what square is. So to make it square, I'm going to have to come down here and dig out that dirt right here and move this over probably 3 or 4 inches. So I missed just a little bit when I dug this footer. Should have been that way, another 2 or 3 inches. So this is always a pain, but I got to scrape off a couple inches of the wall to get the footer in the right place. Otherwise, the footer is too close to the house.
Uh, 7 feet. Yes, yes, yes. 7 feet. 3 and now it's 3 1/4. You moved it.
7 feet 3 1/4. 7 feet 3 3/8. Okay, now we come over here and do it again.
Okay. 3 5/8.
7 feet 3 5/8.
Uh-huh. So it's like one was just before the half mark and the other is just after the half mark.
Okay, so I got to bring it up 1/4 of an inch.
Okay, now this time it is 7 feet 2, and I would call it 5/8. It's really in between the half and the 3/4. Okay, now this one now is 7 3 1/4 inches. I'm in the water today.
So now that I got all the forms in here, I used Elizabeth to help me with the transit, and we set them all so they're all now level. So when I pour the concrete footers, it'll all be level. So I've got the footer forms all in place and all level. Now I have to put in the rebar. I haven't worked for a couple days because of rain. We had like 3 weeks of no rain. Everything was completely dry and dusty. And then we've had 2 days of thunderstorms coming through. And when I went to bed last night, this was completely full of water, which is always a pain when you're at this stage of the game. When I went to bed, it was full of water, and I woke up this morning and it was empty. Everything had sunk into the ground. That's a good thing. I have had times in the past where it fills up with water and I have to get a pump to pump it all out. So it's supposed to be hot and sunny today, and hopefully that mud that's in the bottom will dry out today. So I'm going to get the rebar in right now, and then I'll get the inspector out here tomorrow to inspect it before I pour it. So that mud is the sticky kind. Sticks to absolutely everything. When I used to do this all the time, I had appropriate footwear. I had waterproof boots, and it didn't matter. But I think I've just ruined these shoes. This is nasty. It's hard to walk in. It's hard to get off. That's why I hate sometimes working down below ground. I always enjoy it more once the foundation's done and I can get up into the carpentry part of it. Now I'm going to be bending the rebar to go around the corners. Makes for a much better job. I'll be using this, which is a conduit bender. It's designed to bend metal electrical conduit, but it also works well for rebar. And there we go, perfect bend without kinking it. Now I lay in 2 pieces of rebar around the corner. I have this little metal support that holds the rebar up off of the dirt and puts it into the middle of the footer. Supposed to have an overlap of the rebar when you join it together of at least 2 feet. Then you got to tie these together with these little metal ties. This is a nifty little tool here. It's got a pivot in it. So you just hook it into the loops on the end and twist it. Pretty cool, huh? I like that. So now that's all lashed together. And after I pour the concrete, then this rebar will be embedded inside the concrete. So now I've got the footers in, I've got the rebar in, it's all tied together and it's up off of the ground. So now I'm ready to call the inspector. Hopefully I'll be able to get this inspected tomorrow and then I can pour. So the next day the building inspector came out and of course I passed the inspection for the footers with no problem. So now the next thing to do is to pour the concrete in the footers, and I actually get my entire family involved in pouring the footers, but that'll be in the next video. So be sure to check out the next video, come out in a couple days. Be sure to subscribe so you can find it easily if you haven't already. Thanks for watching. Live simple, live free, you be blessed. We'll see you next time.